What's going on, guys? Throws in a block back again in the garage, and this engine is the engine that came out of the short wide bed pickup truck that was leaking on both sides. Pull you in here nice and close. You can see there's a big crack on the side of the block right there, and there's also a crack on the side of the block right there. So this engine was running and it actually drove. So I am actually going to take this engine. We're going to take it apart because I have some internal parts that I need for something else. The water pump was good. So we'll take the water pump off and take the heads off and save the heads because they were actually good in working order. And then the rest of it is going to go to the scrapyard because the block is no good since it's cracked on both ends. But the flex plate at the back, probably won't worry about saving the oil pan, but the water pump, the heads, and I'm going to take the pistons and use those for something else. Figured I would take you guys along on this journey of seeing what the inside of a 350 looks like. Now this is one that was running, and I also have another one that I believe is locked up. So we'll take both of those apart, kind of compare what they look like, and see if we can find the point of failure on the other one. This one we know the point of failure was the block cracked. Most likely because water was left in the engine and not antifreeze, which is not uncommon, especially on these older engines where people run water because it's cheaper and then they forget to put antifreeze in the wintertime. They don't get their mixture right. Engine freezes up, cracks the block, and then your engine's trash. Engine actually looks pretty good. There was no water leaking into any of the jackets. No water leaking in any of the pistons. Pistons look pretty normal. That dirt came off of the dirt you see here came off of the head gasket. There's a little bit of corrosion back here. You can see that build up there. Nothing too heavy. Pretty sad. This engine probably would have ran for quite some time. Yeah, probably would have run for quite some time. And being that it was a 77 truck, this engine had been replaced, it looks like. That's not the original casting for a 77. The GM 305 stamp right there. So, it had been replaced possibly before, it looks like. Block came out of Canada. So, anyway, we're going to drain the oil, flip it over, and pull these pistons out of this thing. Because I'm going to use those, and the rest of it's going off to become soup cans, or whatever they're going to use it for. I'll save this flex plate, because every once in a while you need one of those, and the originals are better than the new ones. So we'll save that, and we'll save the pistons for a little project I got going. And the rest of this will go bye-bye. There'll be time to break down the other one. Alright, looking in here, the crank looks pretty scratched. Not too bad. All the pistons look to be okay, minus the one or two that hit the floor and broke the piston skirt down there. Looks like this engine was rebuilt, or maybe a remanufactured engine, I'm not sure. So we had new freeze plugs here, which they did their job, except they didn't pop out. They stuck in place while the block they stuck in place while the block cracked. And then on these pistons down here, the rings looked like they had been replaced at some point in time, and the bearings also look like they had been replaced at some point in time. You can see that bearing's got a little bit of wear there, and I think that was due to either lack of oil changes or maybe running it low on oil. I'm not sure. You can see a little bit of scoring there. But those bearings are definitely not originals. They've been replaced at some point in time. So anyway, mild rebuild looks like at some point on this thing, and then they left water in the block, so it's kind of sad. Probably had, I would say, at least another 60 to 100,000 miles easily out of this engine. It's a little 305 and they get the job done, even with a little bit of damage you see there. For what it was going to be doing just cruising around, wasn't going to be bad. But anyway, just figured I would break this one down. Now we know what it looks like on the inside. Pretty much unharmed, other than that crack on both sides of the engine. It's pretty wild. So nothing else I need off here. We're going to put this in the scrap heap, and then we'll break down this other engine. Alright, here's the other engine. Just got it uncovered. I pulled the carburetor off of it, and this is a center bolt, but it was carbureted, so late 80s engine. It is a 305, I believe. Yep, 5.0 right down there. 5.0 305. She is not wanting to move at all. Pretty sure this one's locked up. Was running when pulled, so I don't know what happened, but a lot of corrosion there. Looks pretty clean down there. Plugs didn't look bad. They've been sitting out, but I think it looked bad when it got pulled. Anyway, I'm gonna pull the valve covers off, see what that looks like, and then we'll pull the intake, pull the heads, and see what we have down in there. Alright, so we found some interesting discoveries here. One, the oil had not been changed very regularly, as you can tell by the inside of this valley. All that mud was on the intake, kind of fell in there, but yeah, this, really nasty right there. There was a spider inside there, which I wasn't too worried about him. He would have died under first combustion. But this is why she wouldn't turn over. That piston is rusted in place and has been for quite a while. So that one's done. I'm not even going to take this one apart. I could go through and flip it over, unbolt the rods from the pistons that are still kind of okay, but based on how that looks, and there's probably, let's see, if number 1 was open, then probably number 8 on that one probably looks pretty similar. So don't think I'm gonna continue here. We're gonna call this one done. This one apparently had some water leak through the intake, which is around here somewhere. Oh yeah, back there. Leaked through the intake into one of the valves that was open, into the cylinder, rusted the piston in place. So complete rebuild, but for this 305 we're just going to send it to the scrap yard just like the other one, even though this block is not cracked. It was not really well maintained, so this will be a full rebuild, as you can tell by everything up through here. Not many oil changes or changed regularly enough, and a lot of carbon deposits there and buildup, which tells me that there was also some oil that was on top of the pistons probably. Looks like oil as well as carbon buildup there. Yep, pretty heavy on there. So with that said, we're gonna wrap this one up, and thank you guys for coming on this little journey just to see what was going on inside these engines. Like I said, one of them came out of the pickup truck, and one of them was just another one that came with the transmission that running when parked. I think it was like $200 for the engine and transmission. Ended up using transmission and something else, and just decided to see what this engine would do since it was carbureted. My hope was that it would just at least spin over and I could fire it up, and we probably could have cleaned all this sludge out of the engine and it would have been at least a decent running little driver engine. But since this one has probably seen better days in its last day, it's going to go off and become something else. My name's Erwin. The Through Was in a Block. We're giving back what time is taken away. We'll see you soon.